Local programming on KRWG Public Media made possible in part by viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to Fronteras, a Changing America. I'm Anthony Moreno. On the program, we feature a well-known borderland author who will join us shortly to talk about her work. But first, we take you to a recent event held on the NMSU campus that celebrated lowrider culture. For many Mexican Americans, lowrider culture is a source of pride and offers a connection to their history that is now being celebrated across the country. The lowrider community may consist of car clubs, local businesses, and organizations that support each other. From the design and mechanical magic featured with the vehicles to the fashion and music, lowrider culture is still going strong. Our producer, Evelyn Sandoval, takes us to the kickoff of an exhibition at the NMSU Museum in Las Cruces called Low and Slow, Lowrider Culture on the Border. Check it out.
One of the reasons I wanted to bring this exhibit out is to bring not only the local community, but the Chicanos and Chicanas at NMSU to come celebrate. So yeah, it's also a way to bring people out to the museum. And it's just this community that just celebrates and dresses up, like pachucos or pachucas, celebrates artwork. Having a lowrider itself is, like a generational family thing, but also the time that goes into the artwork. It's a personal thing, and then the artist work as well, which is really important.
It's like a part of life. You get used to it. You want to go. You want to see the beautiful vehicles. Some men that like their car is like their wife because they just love their vehicle so much. The same goes for the women. They put so much hard work and dedication into their vehicles.
It sucks you in and you start having fun with it, and people ask you if there's a number that you would sell it, and there's no number to, it's one of those things that you just love it so much that you want your family to keep driving it and keep it going down the road.
Like hot rods are just a solid paint job. They're about going fast. A lowrider is about artwork. So they like the artwork and the colors, the flake. They like it when it sparkles. And their favorite color, a candy cobalt blue, a candy magenta.
For the exhibition, I started off by conducting oral interviews with some of the local lowrider members, and so I was able to get those stories, and through those connections I was able to borrow items from the community. So everything you see in the exhibit is community-based, and the community coming together to feature their stuff. I'm featuring local car clubs like Sweet Desires and Suavecitas, which is the only female car club in Las Cruces. And then we have Pachuquita Precious, who's a well-known Pachuca in the border region. We have one of her suits. And it's just, these glimpses of objects that kind of highlight the border region and our culture.
Started grabbing magazines and putting up the posters, and I said, I'm gonna get into this. I wanna learn how to paint. I painted my first car in my mom's garage. Got involved with the community since I was very young. When I was around 12, 13, I used to live in Segundo Barrio, and they used to throw the car shows at the Civic Center. We didn't have money, right, to pay for the tickets, so we used to ride our bikes, our lowrider bikes. We were just amazed at all the colors, all the sparkle, the paint jobs, the music, everything that goes with it. It's like going to the Super Bowl.
The exhibit and event bring a passion to the lowrider community because the museum serving as this platform for the lowrider community. And so whenever I first brought it up to a lot of people, they were so excited to finally have, their stuff be exhibited in a museum or their stories be told. So yeah, it holds that value, and I hope people are able to appreciate it, as much as, the lowrider community already does.
I go by Precious Pachuquita. I chose that name because I love precious moments, and I said, why not? Let's just use Precious and then Pachuquita because I'm the local Pachuca here in El Paso and Las Cruces. When they see my suit, I hope that they get a little bit of influence of what the Pachuco culture is about, bring memories back, and hopefully, we get this suits back into style,
The exhibit's gonna run a whole year, and some of these objects might change. I like to think of it as a living exhibit, so the things that you might see on the opening day might not be the things that you'll see next year. The exhibit is also a show of perseverance and how it has come so far, right? There's been prejudices before about lowrider community, associating them with cholos and cholas. But I mean, what's wrong with cholos and cholas? That's part of the culture, which should be celebrated, and I hope this exhibit does that.
We are very excited about our next guest. Joining us today is Denise Chávez. She's a well-known author in the borderland. You may be familiar with her books that include Loving Pedro Infante and A Taco Testimony, Meditations on Family, Food, and Culture. Denise Chávez also co-founded a local organization that gathers and distributes books to children and families on the U.S.-Mexico border. She and her husband also own Casa Camino Real bookstore in Las Cruces. Please welcome author, bookseller, activist Denise Chávez to the program. Denise, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's a great pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
It's an honor to have you on the program. I want to dive in and do a little recap of a recent event that was held on the NMSU campus that highlighted lowrider culture. I saw you at the event, and I'd like to get your thoughts on an event like this and just what it means to the community.
Low and Slow was not only an exhibition of lowrider cars and costumes, the trajes. Honestly, it was one of the best events I've ever attended on the NMSU campus because, number one, there were so many families. Our Chicano, Latino families, I don't think have found a nook, a place where we find ourselves. There were so many people, so many families, so many members of different ages. I really want to congratulate Kent Museum and Norma Hartel and Nathan, the interim director. They did a tremendous job to have brought out all those cars, all those people, Pachuquita Precious and her wonderful costume. It was probably one of the most exciting, interesting, and fun events that I have ever attended on the NMSU campus. And I taught here for 7 years, some years back. It was an integration of culture, literature, art, and family fun. I'm sorry if you missed it, and I know the exhibit is going on for a while, so please do come. I encourage everybody to come and see the exhibit. It's tremendous, really.
It was really something to see. I was able to go there, and when you walk through there, it was really an empowering moment to see so many folks from the community, and of course the cars and the art and the mechanical magic that was involved with the cars, the car clubs and community members, as well as, of course, the artists and authors from the community that were there, and the music. I know when I walked in and heard the old school music playing, and there was a vibe about it that was really something special and unique in our community. And you also had an opportunity to tour this exhibit that explained the history and culture with lowriders. Can you kind of share a little bit more about what you got from that?
Well, I was there from our bookstore, Casa Camino Real bookstore. First of all, I want to just say how proud I was to have tables just of Chicana authors. You never see that. You never see that in our community. We celebrated lo nuestro, what belongs to us. So Chicano art, Chicano music, the food. It was an integration of literature, art, culture, music, and community. Like I said, I've never seen such an outpouring of love, community. I was thrilled. I mean, I'm still floating because it was such an incredible experience. We don't have enough of that. Sometimes between the university and the community, there's like an invisible membrane. We need to be able to be more fluid with our culture and for our people, and that goes for whoever those people are, to feel comfortable on campus. Number one, it's hard to drive around. How do you get around here? Where do I go? What do I do? Am I welcome? Yes, you're very welcome.
I want to talk about that a little bit more, and I was going to go there, but I'm glad you brought that up. Was having an event like that where you have so many people and families in the community on the campus of New Mexico State University, a higher education institution, what can that mean for community members and perhaps young folks thinking about going to college?
I think it was very important. There were a lot of young people. We had books for people of all ages. There was a young girl get that 3 books. One of them was a Mayan coloring book. And to see the interest in books, not enough of our people are reading. Everybody's with the cell phone. And I would like to encourage people to come to our bookstore, to come and encourage your family to read, to come to the museum. I think you're going to see an increase, and I hope here at NMSU, events like this open the floodgates of culture. And I know that Norma got a lot of requests to do events of this type. And I say yes, I think we need to have culturally centric events and to have it covered by the community. We're in Hispanic Heritage Month. What does that mean to people? A lot of people have trouble with the word Hispanic, Latino. What are you? A Chicano, whatever. And now they're using the term Chican, C-H-I-C-A-N-E. I've never heard that, but that's what it's going. Chicanesca, or whatever, Gen Mex. I think we need to feel comfortable with who we are, what our language is, what our diversity is, and to celebrate that, not feel that our culture is removed. We are all the same people. We are needing to come together as human beings to celebrate who we are.
You grew up in Las Cruces. You write about how you not only were growing up in Las Cruces, but El Paso and Ciudad Juarez, as well as borderland communities
Yes.
that your family was connected to as well. You've written about this in depth. How did that experience of growing up in this diverse borderland in the many different communities in southern New Mexico, West Texas, Ciudad Juarez, like how did that impact you to where you are today?
Well, my mother grew up in a very small town called El Polvo, the Dust, Texas. And when we would go out to visit our family there, all of my mother's people spoke Spanish. Here we spoke English for the greater part. But I felt like I was in a different country, a country without a name. And that country was family. If you needed to cross the Rio Grande River and your grandfather was building a house across, you just went in a chalupa, in a boat. There was no border patrol, there were no gates. It was a wide open country. And it was a country of family, landscape, culture. I'm very blessed that my mother's family were all teachers. My father was a lawyer. and he grew up on Mesquite Street, so there was a fusion of culture. He grew up in Chiva Town, that old part of Las Cruces, where there were a lot of goats. They were farmers. They were poor, but my father was able to go to Georgetown University. My mother was able to leave El Polvo, the dust, and they were the first Latino graduates of Sul Ross University. So I come from educators, human rights activists. My mother always had clothing in the car. We were always going to Juarez. She was a single parent later on, and we had ayudantes, women from Juarez that would help us. And so I grew up with helpers and with car full of clothing because we were always helping people. My mother was of the belief that I'm here to serve. And I think we need to ask ourselves as cultural people, what is our role? How can we serve? Are we here to serve or to be served? Our world is so out of balance right now, and we see so many people struggling that I think that's one way we can serve, by understanding our humanness, our humanity.
You mentioned your upbringing being so connected to the importance of community, but you also mentioned growing up in a family of educators.
Yes.
How was education discussed in your house?
Well, we read from an early age. When I was 8 years old, I wanted to become a writer. And I wrote in my little notebook when I was 10, my future dream is to become a writer. And I have that little notebook. I made library cards for my sister and I. My sister Margot, who's an educator and lives in Santa Fe, but she taught at UNM for many years, and she still does. I was in school in the first grade, second grade, 2 years ahead of her, but I was teaching her. I'd go home and give her lessons. And one day my mother came home and she says, Margot was crying because Denise is mad at me because I can't spell Thanksgiving. She was about 5 years old, and I was teaching her because I was her teacher. She wasn't even in school, but I was her teacher, and here we were at Christmas, and she couldn't spell Thanksgiving. So I was an educator when I was 10 years old. I was teaching my sister, and as a result of that, she missed first grade and bumped up to second.
Well, it seems
so I was an educator too.
You write that books always grounded you.
Yes.
How so?
They were home, they were family. When I felt lost, all teenagers are working on identity. Who am I? Where do I belong? Who are my people? I was able to find my home and my roost and my roots in so many authors. Chekhov later on, when I went to an all-girls Catholic high school in Mesilla, I had just graduated from high school and I got cast in Uncle Vanya. I mean, I'm barely 16, 17 years old and I'm thrust into world theater. Chekhov became like my uncle. Literature for me has been my greatest teacher, and I was lucky to have been a drama major with Herschel Zone on this campus. With Tom Earhart, to study with Dr. Earhart, to have studied with Keith Wilson, who started the poetry department. Now, unfortunately, we've lost their names in the annals of the history of NMSU campus. The Herschel Zone Theater is no longer there. It's the Dominici building. Have we honored Tom Earhart? No. Where is the Herschel Zone Theater? Where are all those memories of the people that have come before? So I've always felt a legacy to the ancestors, and I think that that's what was so moving about the Low and Slow. We were honoring our antepasados, our ancestors. We come from the Chicano movement, el movimiento Chicano. We know who we are, and who are Chicanos? People that are align themselves with Chicanismo. We have a political and a social consciousness and an understanding of the struggle of people.
Sharing those stories and that understanding is also something you're involved with the storytelling that you do.
Yes.
Can you share with us a little bit about what is your main goal with that and how you can hope to perhaps leave a legacy with folks that you're sharing those stories with?
Well, in about 2019, just around the pandemic time, we started a program called Libros para el Viaje. And we have distributed over 40,000 books to refugee migrant families, but the program has expanded. Not only are we distributing books to the unhoused, we have a little library at the formerly homeless apartments. We distribute books in nursing homes. About a month ago, we were at Alcaldito Soup Kitchen, and we were giving books away. 300 people eating lunch. A man from Honduras, single parent, refugee, and his 3 children. A woman who happened to be stranded in Las Cruces. And don't think that people were just taking 1 or 2 books. There were people taking piles of books, because books are our sustenance, our food, our nourishment. I would hope that my legacy is that she gave books away. She sold a few, but she gave everything away. And part of that is our project Museo de la Gente, the archival resource center that will preserve the history of the borderland region with Movimiento Chicano, my books, Sandra Cisneros' books, Rodolfo Anaya's signed books. I would like to leave a legacy of a museum with archives that celebrate who we are on the borderland region here on this frontera.
Tell us a little bit more about that goal and where it's at right now and how people can get involved.
Yes, well, contact us. If you have El Grito del Norte or any of those magazines or revistas from that era, you don't know what to do with them, we will happily take them. If you have that signed Rodolfo Anaya, you don't know what to do, your family history, we're going to be at a border archive bazaar here recently, but contact me. We do have a GoFundMe campaign. We're working to become a 501c nonprofit. We were in the future when I had the Border Book Festival for many years, but we are becoming a nonprofit again to preserve Museo de la Gente. So if you're interested in learning about books, what do you do when a book gets wet? How do you remove mold from a book? I'm looking for interns of all ages, young people, older people. Come and help me archive the revistas con sapos. Incredible books. Sandra Cisneros' first chapbook online sells for $3,000. Do you have a copy of that? Let us see it. So it's a matter of activism. Get out there and contact us.
Through your involvement, I'd like to talk about the involvement with the refugee book drive and distribution. I imagine you must have had some very powerful encounters of folks of just what that means when people get a book while they're on their journey, a journey that is very difficult and dangerous for some. And so I'd like to hear, you know, how
a few stories.
Yeah, if you could share with us.
We started distributing it at Peace Lutheran Church, and I would bring books, my husband and I, and put them around the table. I had 3 Isabel Allende books, and there was a woman coming from Guatemala. She loved Isabel Allende. Ay, señora Chávez, por favor, me permiten llevar todos los libros. Can I take them all? Yes, you can have them all. And then one time we were distributing books and under the bridge in Juarez on the Chamizal, the tent city, and this young man came out from one of the tents, and we had a book table there, and he asked me for a book on film. He's living in a tent, folks, and he wants a book on film. There is our future filmmaker. There were the 2 sisters that came from Honduras. Their sister, who lived in New York, refused to house them, refused to support them. They were grieving. It was Easter. And we were at one of our local hotels, and we sang and prayed together. And they hadn't lost hope because a friend was taking them in. Their sister was not taking them in, but there they were, still singing. It's very moving to me. I've met people who have lost husbands, people that have taken the socks off an old man with bloody feet. And yet again, there's that book. There was a man from educated people. Don't think that people don't have education or love to read. He says, oh my God, I've been looking for that book for years. He found it in our little free library. He was a teacher and educator that was displaced. The stories are myriad, and we're working on an anthology called We Are Here to Represent. We have an editor, and we've been working on this story for many, many years. It's an anthology of stories, so I hope people will connect with that. The stories are myriad, and honestly, I would say they've changed my life. They've changed me.
You mentioned we are here to represent. Let's talk about representation a little bit. We just have under 3 minutes left, but where we're at with representation of Chicano culture, can you give us an understanding from your perspective and the history that you've been involved with to where it's at now and compared to where it may have been decades ago?
Well, I think we've made great progress. First of all, we have a Latino Pope. We have many Latina women in office. We hopefully will have a new Latina mayor here in Las Cruces. We have women and men stepping out. On the other hand, we have some regressive policies, immigration policies. We're shackling people and putting them on planes in El Paso and sending them back to their home country, which is not good. I think we need to address climate change, world movement, homelessness, the unhoused, but I have great hope. My great hope is an event like Low and Slow. When people come together, people are buying books. One of the most tender moments was when a man came up to me and bought my book. And he said, "You wrote that book?" I said, "Yes, I'm a writer. I grew up in Las Cruces." "You grew up in Las Cruces?" "Yes." "Si se puede. It's possible. You have a story, and now you write your story." So I would say that to everybody.
When you do talk to young folks in our region, I know there was an opportunity to talk with a lot of families at the recent event we discussed, but what are some things that you think are so important for the next generation of perhaps storytellers to understand?
Listen to your ancestors. Get your grandma's bizcocho recipe. Write down the recipes of your family and talk to your tío Edmundo. Talk to your family, know who your people are, know where you come from. I've met students who didn't know their grandmother's name. Where do you come from? As we say in Spanish, ¿Quién te parió? Where are you from? Where do you come from? Now is the time to collect story and listen to your grandmother, listen to your father, and show up. I am so excited about Low and Slow. I will go back and see the exhibit, and I encourage everybody to go. And Norma Hartel, Kent Museum, you did a tremendous job. We're so proud of NMSU, so proud of Las Cruces. It was fantastic.
Denise Chávez, I want to thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
That's it for our program. Please remember you can share your thoughts with us anytime at feedback@nmsu.edu. I'm Anthony Moreno. We'll see you next time.